Hey guys, it's Nikki here. I'm here today very late. I do apologize. I think my schedule is going to be way more chaotic than I want it to be. Moving forward, I'm having some motivation issues. I'm having some life things just continuously kind of get in the way. Nothing seriously wrong. I'll make a bigger announcement kind of later in the year, but I apologize, and my schedule is just going to be terrible for this near future, and I'm sure I could fix it, but I'm taking it easy. So I'm here today to talk to you about The Little Mermaid. I read the Hans Christen Anderson version of the story, and I kind of skimmed through the Disney version of the movie because unlike Beauty and the Beast, where I grew up loving the movie and didn't really read the story till I was older, with The Little Mermaid, I hated the movie growing up. I still am not a fan. And I had never really read the story. And yeah, they are very different stories. Very different. I would argue more different from each other than Beauty and the Beast was. In the original Hans Christen Andersen tale, it is a much darker story because that's how his kind of fairy tales and fables worked. Same general thing happens. Mermaid, youngest of how many sisters, falls in love with this human, makes a bargain with the sea witch to go up and try to win his love, but that's where the similarities end. Disney does their perfect, nothing wrong with it, happy endings, which was great. Hans Christen Andersen, absolutely not like your typical Disney fairy tale happy ending, which is fine. Because I'm here to tell you, I liked the original story of The Little Mermaid way more. Still questionable everything in regards to a 16-year-old deciding to leave home for love when they've never actually met the person or talked to them. They've only sort of watched them from afar, and even then, not very much. Serious red flags go up every time I read this story. And it's not like Beauty and the Beast is free of these red flags. They're just more glaring here for me. Disney also has wonderful musical numbers in theirs. This had no musical numbers. Shocker, I know. Another difference, too, is like they both lose their voice, but Ariel in Disney's version doesn't seem to have any problems with pain or anything. The bargain that the mermaid in the Hans Christen Andersen version tells strikes a bargain where it's like she's walking on knives to have these feet, and then the sea witch takes her voice from her because this girl is desperate to meet and marry and fall in love with and get a soul with this prince, which arguably is just a terrible decision. She could have just been a mermaid for 300 years and just chilled in the ocean and not had to deal with humanity, which some days is really what I would prefer to do. This is such a strange, another one of these situations where it's so strange just because of how Disney tells the stories. Just in regards to how, like, happy and family-friendly they make the story. And I still hate the movie. It's so much, this whole being 16 and going off to find love is so much worse to me in the movie, and I just roll my eyes because really, Ariel, you're 16, You don't love this guy. His dog licked your face when you were watching him dance. And what you are is horny. Thankfully, because it's a Disney fairy tale, they fall in love and everything works out for the best. In the original tale, spoilers here, she has the opportunity to turn into sea foam if the sea witch gets her way, or shockingly, her happy ending is her being turned into wind. I don't really understand it. It is what it is. But it was a much more satisfying ending to me because she was just like, oh, the man I love is happy, therefore I'm happy for him. And now I have this new life beyond what my life was before, and I get to see the places I'm excited to see. It was like, she loses her corporeal form, but like she seems much happier in the end, which really I can't be upset about. This story was a lot shorter. It's only about the first little chunk here. Like it's not a very long story as compared to Beauty and the Beast being an entire story or an entire book about this big. But yeah, no, I love the way Disney does present this story, just because I know a lot of people do get a lot of joy out of it. I'm just not one of those people. I hate this movie so much. It was an actual trial to get through it, which is why I skimmed the bulk of it. So if you ask me questions about what happened in the movie, I'm going to give you the broad strokes and then I'll rant for about 10 minutes about how much I don't like Ariel. But outside of that, Eric, I guess, isn't terrible. Like, he's just as clueless as the prince in the story, but yeah, at the very end, Ariel comes through and proves that he's the one that saved her and blah, 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 blah. And the sea witch is nowhere above water, which is perfect. The sea witch is Ursula, is like an actual nemesis, whereas in the story, the sea witch is just kind of like, okay, you make your deal, I get these things from you. Peace, enjoy dying, basically. And I was much happier with that representation. Like, I don't know, just like the power, but taking advantage of the desperate is like not really that cool in terms of like social things, but yeah. I don't really know what else to say about these, so I'll just do a quick wrap up here. This review this conversation comparing these two things was very different than the one I had with Beauty and the Beast. My thoughts are a little bit more disorganized. And so if this makes absolutely no sense, apologies again. But to do the quick wrap up, in this case, I definitely prefer the original story over Disney's kind of blander version of it, just because, well, for things I've already talked about, like, I enjoyed the ending a lot more. It was both darker, but also more satisfying for me. You didn't have a lot of the superfluous, like, little side stories like you got in the movie, like Sebastian going around the castle, and like just some of the other little things that pop up in the movie that are just kind of distracting but filler because the story isn't very long. I am not a fan of the protagonist in either situation. Ariel, like, as someone who highly values in real life and in books very realistic feeling relationships based on actual believable attraction instead of just, I love him, daddy, except she's just horny for this human. I mean, don't get me wrong, King Triton deals with it very poorly, very, very poorly, which is how the rest of the movie spins out of control. And here she just doesn't tell anybody. She just goes off and does it, which is way more legit in my mind. But yeah, no, I I don't even know what I would give this in terms of rating. Like, I really enjoyed the story. It dealt with the things I hate about the movie so much better, and we just ended up being a way more enjoyable experience. Also a way shorter experience. I can read 50 pages in like an hour, whereas that movie was an hour and a half of wasted time, basically. It's the reverse of my last review, where I wasn't crazy about the book, but loved the movie, and I still have a lot of nostalgic ties to it. Here, didn't like the movie growing up, still don't like it, but I like the story. So there we are. Let me know below what your guys' thoughts on these things are, and I'll talk to you there. Peace.